I do possess 4.5 years of experience, IT experience. Currently, I was in Infosys, and now I'm working in a US-based organization.
Mhm.
Earlier, I was not that much into development. I was more in a support side, but later on, like 2.5 years back, I switched to development side using React. So
Okay.
currently in my organization, I'm working on a logistic-based project, which is US based, and we are currently inclined towards React, JavaScript. Actually, we are using TypeScript,
Mhm.
and we are using GraphQL, and we got some new requirements also. We are learning Nest.js also for that requirement.
Okay, so mostly you're working with TypeScript and not with the backend.
Yeah, TypeScript, JavaScript. We prefer TypeScript, but we use both.
Okay. And what about React.js and Angular? Any framework?
Yeah, I we do use a React JS version 16.8, or we just upgraded to 17, I think.
Mhm. Okay. So what I can do, I can ask intro question regarding the React first. Then if we have some time, then we can go to JavaScript as well. Because both are things
Yeah,
are
sure.
more important in the interview.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So can you please tell me what is virtual DOM and what is the difference between real DOM and virtual DOM in the React?
Actually, virtual DOM is just the copy of real DOM. When we have multiple elements, so we will have a tree-like structure of all the elements. And unlike the real DOM, when a single elements get updated, so only that part will get re-rendered, not the whole tree which gets re-rendered in the real DOM and Angular. So re-rendering is faster in React due to virtual DOM.
So do you know what exactly happens when you save something in the component in the virtual DOM?
Sorry?
When you save something in the component, how that get compiled and how that only that component get rendered in the browser instead of reloading the whole browser.
Uh, I think it will have a ID. The elements will have a unique ID for that, and only that ID element will get re-rendered.
Okay, so why I'm asking this. So you have real DOM, correct? And you have
Yes.
virtual DOM. So you are doing something changes and the virtual DOM get rendered. Okay. So instead of
Okay.
reloading your tab, it reloads only that component. Okay. So for that reason, I'm asking how that happens. So you can check it. So actually, it has some pages over there in the bundles. So you can get that as well.
Oh, module bundler, you are saying.
Yeah, yeah. Module bundle get executed at the end only in the browser. But uh, see, when you bundle your components or some your changes code exactly, and when you reload, it get compiled the new one, correct? So
Yes.
what I was trying to ask you, suppose you have an component, okay, and you are updating value one with a two, okay. So if you
Hmm.
want to see that one equal one as to two now, so I have to reload that tab, correct? In the
Yes.
Angular or Vue.js, Vue.js I'm not aware about it, but in the Angular you have to reload your tab because there is no concept of the virtual tab. So as soon as you change your value in the component, that component only get refreshed in the virtual DOM. So that I'm asking how exactly happens. So what things gonna happen in the background? You can check that actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. No problem. So whatever you mentioned, that is correct. But you need to go to some deep question because some interviewer will work on that part. So he might ask you regarding the too many questions in between in the depth as well.
Okay, I'll check. Thank you for
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay. So what is React fragments?
React fragments are the replacement of actually div when we have to render multiple elements without using div. So earlier we were using React dot fragments and wrapping multiple elements between them, but now we can use their sugar synthetic form as well, like greater and smaller and greater close smaller.
Okay. So what is difference between stateless component and stateful component?
In state full component, we will have the idea about the past as well, the present as well, and maybe the future state as well. But
Mhm.
stateless component will not have any such idea. And in state full component, we can control the state. In stateless component, we cannot control the state of a component.
Okay. So we do create a component as a higher order component, correct? In the React. So what exactly it is?
Yes. A higher order component is basically a normal component which we create for reusability of the code. And the only difference is that it takes a component as an input and will give a new component as an output rather than any element, just like normal component. So it will not change the input element or any uh, alteration to the input element component. Sorry, it will create a new component. Example, we can use like weather API that we are calling. So we can make that as a higher order component, and we can pass the input as a city name that we can pass, and it will give us the weather of that city every time.
Okay.
So basically, it is for reusability.
Yeah, yeah, correct. Correct. So you can give one component as an input and you will get transformed component. Correct.
Yes,
Yeah.
the new
Yeah.
component as output.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. New component with the transform. Okay. So yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So yeah. So tell me, in the React, how data flows?
From data, if the flow directional is a unidirectional in React, it
Mhm.
usually flows from parent to child.
Parent to child. Correct. And if I
Yes.
want to do from child to parent, then
Then we can use callback.
okay. Now tell me, I have one A component, okay, that passing data to B
Mm-hmm.
component, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that B component passing to C component.
Okay.
So is this a good way to do that? So this is the prod drilling. Okay, you have one object, okay, in the component A. You are passing that component A data to B, and again you are passing B
Mm-hmm.
to C. So you are drilling your props. Did you get now?
Yes, yes.
This is the
And
example
that data
prop.
is not required in B.
Get me?
You're passing from A to B and
Hmm.
B to C. So
Correct.
that data is required in B or not?
Correct, correct. See, if you want to pass data to C directly, but you don't know about the context API, hooks, anything. So how can you do that?
Mm-hmm.
So that was the older approach. Suppose you have 10 table of the components, okay, and you want to pass first element of the first component data to 10th component. So you do that prop drilling, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, like that way, 10. So no need to touch in between components, 9 to 2 to 9, correct? We can pass directly 1 to 10 directly. So this is the prop drilling.
Yes.
So to resolve that, we use multiple things. So now tell me what we can use.
For this, earlier we were using context API. Like we were we were creating a context in the parent, and then we were doing the provider thing in that, and then we were doing the consumer thing in the 10th child, 10th component. But later on, when project became a little bit heavy, so the consumer was a bit difficult to handle. So we switched to use context hook.
Okay. Okay. So any other thing we can use?
We can use Redux for this.
Yeah, correct. Okay. So, okay. So what is child props? Have you heard about it?
No, actually.
Basically, what happens? Suppose you want to pass some static data to your child component. In that case, you do that. You can directly pass your children. So suppose you have one div, correct? And you are calling some inside that you have some span. So if you get that as a children props, you will get that span over there. You can read about it. I use
Yeah, I'll check
this. I
about
use
that.
this. Maybe within comment. Okay. So yeah, we move to now right cycle hooks. So these are some common questions regarding the props, states. That is why I was trying to just brush at your functions.
Okay.
Okay. While creating a component in the React, what do you prefer to use? Functional component or a class-based component?
When I started working with React,
Mm.
class-based component was out of dated. So I have started working directly from functional-based component itself. I have not worked with class-based component.
Okay. So what do you think? Which one is better?
I think functional ones are better because we can. The only limitation that earlier was we were not able to use lifecycle methods in the functional based component, but after the introduction of hooks, that limitation also got covered up. So it's better to use functional based components only.
Okay. So the question is now, why do we need a functional component in the React? We can do same thing in the class-based component, correct?
Uh, yes, but as I said, I've not worked with class based components, so I'm not aware about the difference.
Yeah.
But I think the functional based components are much easier to implement and much easier to handle the lifecycle methods using hook.
Okay. So this is for developer, correct?
Yes.
But there is something in the background for the React as well. So when you create a class-based component, it gets compiled to functional component in the backend. Okay, in the bundle files. Then it get to the browser. So three step over there: class-based, function, and then render. In the functional component, directly function and render. So they removed one part, that transforming your class to function. You can read about it. Sometimes what happens, some person works on the class-based component much now, so he will ask you. So what is the reason
Okay.
behind
Okay.
it? Okay.
Okay.
Hmm. But, okay. So while talking about the hooks now, what is use effect and what are the use of it? When should we prefer to use effect in the project?
Use effect is a hook that we use to tell what to do after rendering is completed, and basically we use effect for making the side effects call like API calls like on the first time rendering of the page.
Mm.
So in the use effect, first one is a callback function. First argument is a callback function, and the second argument that we pass to tell the browser like how many times and when do we need to uh, execute this use effect. Like if we pass an empty array, then it will execute only first time. If we pass nothing, then it will be executed every time. And if we want the dependencies to be passed, like if there is a user and that user will change,
Wait,
only
wait,
then
Himanshu.
use effect should call.
If we don't pass, then when it will run?
It will run every time on every
Okay.
real. If we are passing nothing, like if uh, we are not giving the second argument, then
Mm.
it will act as
It will
compile.
work. It will call that use effect function at the beginning of the page only, load page, not the every time. Means you are not passing dependencies, correct? So as soon as your component get loaded, that use effect has no dependencies, so it will run. Suppose you want to get a weather data, okay? So that is not depend upon anything on the component level. So at that case, you pass that use effect with a blank. So as soon as your component get load, your use effect get triggered. And another thing you mentioned correctly, suppose we want to call that at the time of something happened or some effect happened in the component. That is correct. But just read about the first point. Actually, it
Okay,
will
I'm
not
still
call.
confused about this.
No, 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 no. Only two
I'll
things. See, let me tell you. Two things. You don't do anything at the time it will get trigger, or you do something at that time it get trigger. Correct? Two things only. If you're not passing anything inside that, so it means it get loaded once. As soon as your component get loaded. And second thing, you are doing something at the time of that. Only two things remember to do.
Okay.
Okay. So, okay, you did not work on the class base. So I have few
No.
questions regarding that as well. Okay. So what is use reps?
User refs we basically use for uncontrolled components like forms and all. There are two types of component: controlled components and uncontrolled components. Controlled components are the ones which data is controlled by the state, and uncontrolled ones are the one which data is controlled by the DOM. So to access the data from the DOM, we use refs to get a current state.
Okay. So when do we use it? Any example do you know?
As I said, like we use in the forms,
Correct. Okay.
and yeah.
Okay. Okay, we'll move to now routing. So if I want to make a routing as a lazy, then what things I need to do?
Sorry, routing.
Yeah, in the React, you know
Yeah.
React routing, correct? How the routing works.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes,
I'm
yes.
asking about lazy routing in the React.
Uh-huh.
So
So I think you will need to wrap the browser. First, you will need to wrap the component in the browser router, and then the whole thing you will need to wrap up in the react.lazy.
correct. So how can we import that our component then at the time of initializing the component at the top? We usually do
Uh,
directly import component from your file name, correct?
yes.
So yeah, so in the case of React Lazy, do you know how to import it? We have to
I've not
use.
worked with lazy.
Hmm.
I'll check that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, please check that. Okay, so we have to use something kind of the lazy curly brace over there, and inside that you have to pass that your path. So import and your file name. So what happens when that component get triggered at the time only it get called as a lazy.
Okay.
Okay. You can note this question. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So the next, you can say the common question or some tricky question. Why we use class name instead of class in the React?
Uh, Actually, we can use class as well. It will not throw any error. It will just give us a warning in the console if we check.
Hmm.
And we prefer using class name because class is already a reserved keyword in the JavaScript.
Hmm.
And JSX is nothing but the extended version of JavaScript only. So to avoid the confusion, the name clashes, we prefer using class name. But
Hmm.
class will also work fine.
Okay. Yeah, correct. Because too many people get confused. We have
Yeah, yeah.
class, and how can we are not use, we are not able to use that class over there. So most of the people get confused over there. Okay. So suppose I want to capture some error in the React components. So how can I do that?
Sorry, your voice is very, you want to capture?
I need to, okay, let me ask you directly. What is error boundaries?
Error boundaries are the way to handle the errors in React. These uses two, life cycles. One is uh, get derived state from error,
Mhm.
and another one I'm not recalling it right now. And so this will just log the error and will give a fallback UI instead of crashing the application.
Convenient. Okay. Okay. So you don't know about the class, so we cannot say about talk about super the constructor and all. Okay. Fine.
If you suggest, I will read about that.
Yeah, yeah. So question is related to how we use super in the class-based component. Okay.
Okay.
You can note down this
I'll
one.
note these things down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. 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 So to call an API on the React, how can we call it?
We can call it like in the two ways that I am aware of. One is to
Mhm.
fetch, and another one is Axios.
Okay. So what both returns?
What both?
What both returns?
If we use fetch, then it will give us an object that we need to stringify first, and then we can use that. And if we use Axios, then it by default returns the stringifies object. So we can use directly. There is a what
Stringify
you say, the
object is
parameter.
returns or it returns
The,
exact object. We do
it returns
dot
the.
response.json for the page API. It returns you a promise.
We need to stringify the data
Yeah,
then because
not the stringify. You need to parse that data. Stringify means what?
yeah, sorry, yeah,
Okay.
about that one.
Stringify means you are
Yeah,
creating object string in the for the object.
no,
No, not
we
that.
will parse that.
Okay. So my question was, what exactly both returns? So page return promise. So you have to capture in the dot then. Have you
Okay.
seen that syntax for the page
Yes,
API? Yeah.
yes,
So
yes.
yeah. So that was I was trying to ask. Okay. Now tell me what are
But
the limitations? Hmm?
we do have dots then in Axios as well, no?
Yeah. So both are return promise. That is why we use
Okay,
dot then.
okay.
I am not aware about the Axios too much, but H I am aware about it very well. Okay, so what is the limitation for React for you now?
React, the limitation of React.
Yes.
The first one is that it is not the complete framework, it is just a library.
Hmm.
And the library is too heavy to implement. It is uh, a bit difficult to understand for new programmers.
Hmm.
And
Have to depend upon third party components too much time.
yeah,
And the way you said that we use Axios, correct? So this is third party
yes,
npm package. Like that, we have to
yes.
use multiple things. Now tell me what is framework means.
Framework means that you will not have to depend on anything, I guess. Like we will have everything in the framework itself.
Do you know an example for framework?
Uh, Angular is a framework.
Yeah, correct. So framework means everything will be inside that and they have their own rule. Okay. So that rule we have to follow, then only you are able to create an application. So mostly people follows Angular for the legacy application or like the
Yeah.
banking and all. Okay. Now, I think we have covered corner cases like the way usually interview will talk with you. So do you have any question for React for me?